For 200 years, one institution has ensured the stability of our monetary system, the Austrian Central Bank. These days, it is an integral element of the European system of central banks. Its most important responsibility is to ensure continued trust in our currency. War breaks out in Europe in 1792. Napoleon has the continent running scared. In order to finance the war effort, Austria prints more and more banknotes. In 1811, they made the first attempt to stop the inflationary rise in banknotes, reducing the worth of the notes to a fifth of their value. As a result of the devaluation of the currency, the people lose everything. The population faces financial ruin. The Minister of Finance at the time, Count Stadion, attempts to bring order to the chaotic monetary policies of the monarchy. In 1816, he uses capital provided by the bankers Adam von Arnstein and Bernhard von Aeschylus to found an institution that will shape Austrian life for the next 200 years, the Central Bank. These are the first statutes of the privileged Austrian Central Bank. The certificate is signed personally by Emperor Franz I. The bank is initially located at Singerstrasse 17-19 in Vienna. From the very beginning, the central bank was committed to limiting the number of banknotes to what could realistically be covered by the existing silver reserves, as silver was the key currency during the monarchy. Credibility and trust are essential for a central bank. One has to believe that these scraps of paper actually have some value. 1848. The people's desire for representation, freedom of the press, and equality, as well as the disastrous living standards of the lower classes, lead to revolution. As a result of the unrest, people endeavored to exchange their paper money for silver coins, causing a run on the banks in early 1848. The silver reserves are soon depleted, and on the 21st of May, the decision is made to cease the exchange process. After 1850, economic expansion leads to the growth of monetary transactions and banking institutions. The central bank builds a new home, the Palais Ferstel, and changes its name to the Austro-Hungarian Bank. As well as the bank, the Palais Ferstel is home to a large stock exchange. The empire draws closer together economically. As a result of this process, the central bank opens its first branch in Prague in 1847. Through the 1860s, 70s and 80s, branches are opened throughout the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The economic boom and mass immigration lead to a modernization of the cities. The narrow old alleys and small buildings are torn down. They are replaced by the majestic Ringstrasse with its symbols of the new age. Vienna becomes truly cosmopolitan. The desire for happiness is visible in the art world and beyond. Gold takes on a new financial importance. In 1892, the krone is introduced as legal tender. The new currency is based on the gold standard system. The 28th of June, 1914. It is a day that will change the world. The Austrian heir to the imperial throne, Franz Ferdinand, pays a visit to the Bosnian city of Sarajevo. 2 fatal shots ring out. Austria buries its heir, marking the beginning of the end of the empire. 1 month later, the First World War breaks out. Unlike most previous wars, the First World War is financed by war bonds rather than additional taxation. The war bonds cover 2/3 of war expenditure, with the remaining third being covered by central bank loans. Wars always lead to inflation. In the course of the First World War, prices increase 16-fold. This is just a precursor to the hyperinflation that follows the war, which sees a 14,000-fold price increase. The war bonds signed during the war are paid back with money that is practically worthless by 1922. The once mighty empire disintegrates into individual states. Austria requires external assistance, namely loans from the International League of Nations.
The introduction of the shilling currency system in 1925 was to mark the end of the financial restructuring process.
10,000 old Kronen are now 1 shilling. After the collapse of the Habsburg Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Bank is dissolved. In 1923, it is founded anew as the Austrian Central Bank. The bank moves from its previous location in the Palais Ferstel to its current location on Otto-Wagner-Platz. Throughout society, the desire for enjoyment and entertainment returns. After years of war and deprivation, anything seems possible. But the economic boom encourages financial risk-taking, and speculation is rife. In 1929, Wall Street is a victim of one of the worst stock market crashes in history. Billions of dollars of investment are lost on Black Tuesday. In Austria, the Bodenkreditanstalt is particularly affected by the events on Wall Street. The bank plays an important role in financing Austrian industry. Overnight, the Bodenkreditanstalt has to merge with the Kreditanstalt. In 1931, the Kreditanstalt itself slides into bankruptcy, consuming almost an entire federal budget. As a result, the central bank is forced to take over the ailing bank. This is soon followed by another collapse. In 1932, the state is once again bankrupt, and Austria is forced to apply for another League of Nations loan. The government's austerity policies force many companies into bankruptcy, and Austrian factories close one by one. 1/3 of the workforce is unemployed, and hundreds of thousands are on the dole. In 1938, German troops march into Austria, where they are greeted by jubilant crowds. On the 12th of March of that year, Austria becomes part of the German Reich, without putting up any resistance. On Hitler's orders, the Austrian Central Bank immediately ceases to be an independent entity and becomes merely a branch of Berlin's Reichsbank. Gold and currency reserves are moved to Germany. Among the new tasks of the central bank, for example, is investing the money that is confiscated from Jews in securities. Like the wars before, the Second World War was financed with a lot of money from the central banks. It just wasn't as visible in everyday prices because of rationing. After the war, international assistance enables a new beginning for Austria. The most significant measure is the Marshall Plan, worth $1 billion. In 1947, the shilling is once again introduced as the central currency in all 4 occupied zones. The central bank is responsible for distributing the money. 1 state, 1 currency. The stable shilling marks the beginning of the Austrian economic miracle. After the signing of the Austrian State Treaty, Austria experiences a period of financial upturn. Large parts of the population are able to achieve a certain prosperity. In the 1970s, Minister of Finance Androsch pegs the Austrian shilling to the German Deutschmark and, together with the Austrian Central Bank, implements the so-called hard currency policy. The policy poses some challenges for the Austrian economy, but it remains internationally competitive. In addition, it smooths the transition into the euro. Robert Kaliner is a banknote designer. 1999 marks the high point of his career. His design is chosen from among 44 submissions to grace the new euro banknotes. On the 1st of January, the moment finally arrives. Europe introduces a common currency, and Austria is part of it. Today, decisions about monetary policy are made together with the European Central Bank in Frankfurt, led by the bank's executive board and the governing council. This council is made up of the governors of each member state's central bank. One of the primary responsibilities remains ensuring monetary stability. Over the course of 200 years, we have faced many challenges, but we can now once again claim to have a stable system. The Austrian Central Bank continues to have its own independent responsibilities. One of these is to guarantee financial transactions. A subsidiary company, the Österreichische Banknoten- und Sicherheitsdruck GmbH, is responsible for developing, designing, producing and distributing banknotes for Austria and for many other countries. This is where the flow of money into capital markets begins. The Geldservice Austria, or Cash Service Austria, is responsible for the smooth circulation of cash. Banknotes worth approximately 30 billion euros are stored in a well-guarded subterranean depository. On average, every banknote comes back to us 3 or 4 times to have its condition and authenticity checked. This keeps cash circulating through Austria's banks and businesses. We also have a new important task: to ensure the stability of the financial markets and oversee the banks. In addition, we are responsible for the administration and safeguarding of Austria's gold and currency reserves, acting as trustees for the citizens of Austria.
Sowohl was das Gold betrifft, wie auch was die Devisenreserven betrifft.